Hi, welcome to the Wise Archive. Here, we make language learning simple and interesting. With us, you'll forget you're even studying and enjoy every moment. Christopher Columbus was a boy who loved the sea. He lived in Genoa, Italy. He dreamed of sailing far across the ocean. He wanted to find new lands and new people. His father was a weaver. He worked with cloth all day. The smell of wool and dye filled the house. His hands were rough and red. Christopher often helped him. He touched the cloth and learned to work carefully. He looked at the streets outside. The city was busy, with carts, animals, and people shouting. Christopher liked to watch ships in the harbor. He saw sails and masts. He heard the water splash and ropes creak. The smell of salt was strong. He wanted to be on those ships. He wanted to feel the wind on his face. He wanted to sail far, to see new things. He thought again, one day I will go to the sea. He went to school sometimes. He learned to read and write. He learned numbers and letters. The classroom was small. The smell of chalk and paper was strong. The teacher spoke slowly. Christopher listened carefully. He wanted to understand everything. He thought again, knowledge is my key to the sea. At home, he read stories about sailors. He read about maps and far countries. He touched the pages, smelled the ink. The words looked strange, but exciting. He thought again, one day I will go where no one has gone. He often dreams about islands, big forests, and unknown oceans. Christopher's friends played in the streets. They ran, shouted, and laughed. The air was warm. The smell of bread from bakeries filled the streets. Christopher often joined them, but his mind was on the ships. He watched the sea more than he played. He thought again, I must learn, I must prepare, I must sail. His city was full of sounds. Bells rang in churches. Markets were noisy. Animals made sounds. The smell of fish and fruit mixed in the air. Christopher felt alive. He felt curious. He touched the rough walls, the smooth coins, and the soft cloth from his father. He thought again, the world is big, and I want to see it all. One day, he saw a large ship leave the harbor. The sails were white, the ropes tight. The sailors shouted orders. The waves hit the hull with a strong sound. Christopher felt the wind and smelled the salt water. He thought again, one day I will command a ship like that. He knew it was a dream, but it gave him hope. His parents wanted him to work in the family business. Christopher helped, but his heart was elsewhere. He looked at maps at night. He studied stars and the sky. He wanted to know the seas. He wanted to sail to unknown lands. He thought again, my dream is not easy, but it is mine. Christopher was a small boy with big dreams. He loved the sea, maps, and stories. He wanted adventure. He wanted to see the world beyond Genoa. Every day he looked at the harbor and thought, one day I will sail far and find new lands. His journey had not started, but his heart was ready. Christopher grew older. He was now a young man. He often worked in the port of Genoa. He helped sailors and learned about ships. The smell of salt and fish was always strong. The sound of waves and ropes filled the air. He touched the wood of the ships. He learned how to tie knots and steer small boats. He thought again, one day I will command a big ship. He studied maps and stars. He wanted to know directions on the sea. He wanted to find new routes. The paper smelled of ink. The lines of the maps were sharp. He traced them with his finger. He thought again, knowledge is the key to travel far. Christopher wanted to sail to distant lands. He heard stories of Asia and Africa. He wanted to see big forests, rivers, and mountains. He imagined spices, gold, and new people. He felt the wind in his dreams. He thought again, the world is bigger than Genoa. He traveled to Spain to find help for his journey. The city was noisy and full of smell. People shouted in the markets. Horses ran in the streets. Christopher walked carefully. He looked at the buildings, the shops, and the harbor. He thought again, this is a new place, and I must learn its ways. He met kings and queens. He explained his idea of sailing west to reach Asia. The rooms were large. The candles smelled of wax. The walls were cold. Christopher felt nervous, but he spoke carefully. He showed maps and numbers. He thought again, I must be clear, I must be strong, I must be patient. Finally, he received ships and sailors. He was happy and worried at the same time. The wood of the ships smelled of tar and salt. The sails were large and white. The ropes were rough under his hands. He touched the deck carefully. He thought again, my dream is real, I will sail soon. The crew prepared food and supplies. They loaded barrels, bread, and water. The smell of the sea mixed with wood and oil. Christopher walked on the deck. He saw the harbor and the city. The sun was hot on his face. He thought again, the journey will be long, but I am ready. On the first day of the voyage, the waves were high. The ship moved up and down. The wind blew strong. Water hit the deck. Christopher felt cold and wet. He touched the ropes and held the railing. He thought again, I must be careful, I must be brave, I must guide the crew. At night, he looked at the stars. They were bright in the clear sky. The sea was quiet. The smell of salt was strong. He thought of his family and Genoa. He imagined the lands he would see. He thought again, one day I will find new islands, new rivers, and new people. Christopher's journey had started. He left the familiar streets and harbor of Genoa. He sailed into the unknown. The waves, wind, and sun tested him. The sea smelled of salt. The ship creaked and moved. Yet he felt hope. He thought again, the world is waiting, and I will find it. Christopher sailed for many days. The sea was big and blue. The sun was hot on the deck. Waves splashed and made the ship move. The wind blew in the sails. He touched the ropes and the wooden deck. He thought again, the journey is long, but I must keep going. The sailors were busy. They pulled ropes, checked the sails, and cleaned the deck. The smell of salt and fish was everywhere. The sound of water hitting the hull was loud. Christopher walked carefully, watching the horizon. He thought again, I must lead well, I must be patient, I must stay strong. Sometimes, storms came. The sky became grey. Rain fell on the deck. Water hit the crew and soaked their clothes. The wind blew hard. Christopher held the railing. He felt cold and wet. He thought again, I must guide the ship, I must protect the crew. The nights were quiet. Stars shone in the sky. The sea was calm. The smell of wet wood and salt filled the air. Christopher looked at the stars and thought of maps. He imagined the islands far away. He thought again, I will find land soon. After many weeks, birds appeared. They flew above the ship. The sailors shouted with joy. The smell of land was in the air. Trees were far in the distance. Christopher felt excited. He touched the deck and smiled. He thought again, land is near, my dream is coming true. The first island was beautiful. Trees were green, and the air was fresh. Flowers smelled sweet. The sand was soft under their feet. Water from the river was cold. Christopher walked carefully on the shore. He thought again, this is new, this is real, this is what I wanted to find. The people of the island were curious. They wore simple clothes and carried baskets. They spoke in a language Christopher did not know. The smell of fruit was strong. The sound of drums came from the village. Christopher smiled and gave gifts from the ship. He thought again, I must be kind, I must be careful, I must learn. Christopher explored more islands. He saw rivers, forests, and mountains. The air was hot and humid. Birds and animals made sounds. The sand was warm under his feet. He touched trees and leaves. He thought again, the world is bigger than I imagined. He sailed back to Spain with treasures and stories. The wood of the ship smelled of salt and tar. The sails flapped in the wind. The crew was happy and tired. Christopher looked at the sea. He thought again, my journey was hard, but I succeeded. Christopher's first voyage changed his life. He proved that it was possible to sail west and find new lands. The sun, wind, and waves tested him. The islands, people, and forests were beautiful and new. He touched maps, counted treasures, and remembered the sea. He thought again, my dream came true, but the world is still full of discoveries. Christopher prepared for a second voyage. He wanted to explore more lands. The ships were bigger and stronger. The sails were white and clean. The wood smelled of tar and salt. The ropes were rough under his hands. He thought again, this journey will be long, but I am ready. The crew was larger now. Sailors carried barrels of water and food. Bread, cheese, and dried fish filled the ship. The smell was strong and salty. The sun was hot on their backs. Christopher walked on the deck, checking every rope and sail. He thought again, I must lead well, I must stay careful, I must guide everyone. The journey was not easy. The waves were high, and storms came often. Rain soaked the crew. Wind blew hard. Christopher held the railing and helped the sailors. He felt tired and cold. He thought again, I must be strong, I must not give up, I must reach new lands. After many weeks, they saw land again. The shore was wide, with green trees and white sand. The water smelled fresh. Birds flew above the shore. The crew shouted with joy. Christopher stepped on the sand. He touched it with his hands and felt the warmth. He thought again, this is beautiful, this is what I hoped for. Christopher explored the islands. He saw rivers, mountains, and forests. He felt the soft grass under his feet. The air was hot and full of flowers. He saw fruits and spices he never knew before. He thought again, the world is full of wonders, and I want to see more. He returned to Spain with new treasures. Gold, spices, and strange fruits filled the ships. The smell of salt and tar was strong. The sails flapped in the wind. Christopher looked at the coast of Spain. He felt proud. He thought again, my voyages changed the world, my dreams are real. People celebrated his return. Kings and queens were impressed. Maps and stories of new lands were shown. The room smelled of candles and wax. Christopher felt happy and tired. He touched the treasures and the maps. He thought again, I must prepare for another journey, the world is still big. He planned more voyages. Each journey was longer and more difficult. He faced storms, sickness, and rough seas. He touched the ropes, sails, and deck every day. The sun was hot, the waves strong. Yet he did not stop. He thought again, courage and knowledge will guide me, I must continue. Christopher saw new islands and met many people. He learned about customs, food, and work. He smelled spices and fresh fruit. He listened to voices and music of the islands. He thought again, every island is a story, every person is important, every journey teaches me something new. He returned to Spain many times. Each time, he brought maps, treasures, and stories. He touched the paper of new maps, the coins of gold, and the sails of the ships. He thought again, the world is bigger than I imagined, my work is important, and my dreams continue.